What's going on, guys? This is Jane Joku, Sneaker Principal. And this evening, I had the chance to sit and watch Emancipation, Will Smith's film. And what's interesting is that I didn't even know about it, until I actually saw the image and the premiere trailer on Apple TV. And what's interesting about that is with everything that happened with the infamous slap, I just had the assumption that it would be a while till we saw anything of note from Will Smith. Um, just the way everything had been kind of framed was that that whole situation with him and Chris Rock definitely put a hamper on his career and probably kind of a little bit of a pause until the smoke cleared. But what's interesting is after watching this film, I feel the complete opposite. I almost feel like that was an intentional distraction from this film, in the sense that uh maybe this is my 100% my opinion. Maybe that situation, whether true or false, whether it was staged or whatever the case may be, allowed for attention to be put on that incident, so this film can kind of like go under the radar without a lot of fanfare, so that when it came out, the topic of the conversation would be the film itself and not anything else. There's a lot of things in this film that really, especially right now with everything that's happening um, in society around reparations and the whole craziness with that happened around Kyrie and the Hebrew Israelites, and this whole tense space that we're in right now around race and specifically around the black experience in America, and I'll be honest with you, around the world. And so this film is very interesting. I've seen all the all the enslaved narratives. And I'm learning to say not to say they were slaves, but they were enslaved people. We were enslaved people. So I've seen 12 Years a Slave. I've seen Roots, both versions. I've seen Glory. I've seen all these films that after a while, Amistad. After a while, they become kind of artistic retellings. But I have to say, this is the first film that I've seen about enslaved people and persons that made me feel really, really, really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Like I was squirming in my seat, my back, my stress spots, my back was activated, and to my core, I felt really uncomfortable. Because the film is not perfect, but it does a really good job at framing a micro percentage of what it was like. I'm talking about micro percentage because I can never even fully imagine or comprehend the smells, the taste, the feelings, the emotions of being in the 16, 17, 1800s and being kidnapped and being, you know, traded like chattel, you know. And this film did something to my brain, you know. Um, I think what even made this even more impactful for me is that it's it's a true story, about a slave, an enslaved person, enslaved man whose name was Peter. And I'm very familiar with Peter, at least the image of him, because it was actually in my textbook in high school. The first image of slavery that I saw in documented as an immigrant child in America, an African child in America, and my brain couldn't understand it. So I want to share with you real quick this image. Let me take this out. So I remember the first time I saw this image right here in my textbook, and this man's name was Peter, and Will Smith is playing him. And this image of his back and the scars on his body was the first apparently it was one of the first photographs taken that depicted the brutality of slavery. It wasn't a drawing; it was an actual photograph of a man. This was during the Civil War, and this is who Will Smith plays in the film. And it's funny because I never knew this until I looked it up this evening. Like his name or nickname was Whipped Peter. The title of this article is from the History Channel, the shocking photo of Whipped Peter that made slavery's brutality impossible to deny. Whipped Peter. I don't know that even seeing that for the first time this evening, definitely, yeah. So so this film, which is on Apple TV, I'm not sponsoring or advocating for Apple, but it just so happens this is where I saw it, and I believe that's where you can see it right now. And it's free. It's not something you have to pay for. You literally can, if you have Apple TV, you can watch it, and and it, yeah. So highlights of this film, from a purely intellectual perspective, and maybe even emotional, is the connections that are made in this film that I thought were really, really powerful for me. They're like Peter, according to this film, was from Haiti. He was brought here from Haiti. His wife from Haiti as well. So he was Haitian, and this was in Louisiana, which those connections I can understand between um, Louisiana being a former um, colony of France, right? And then that's where he sold it to the United States. Then Haiti also being a colony of France, so that connection there, and Will speaks with a French Creole accent throughout the whole entire film. And then there are also other black men that have variations of accents from the southern, typical what you would imagine a southern black person would sound like during that time frame. There was also another character who had a very distinct. I'll be honest with you. I would say Nigerian region, because Nigeria is just a border around a nation that was carved out by Britain, but the accent sounded very southern Nigerian. I would say either Igbo or Yoruba, but that accent in there to show you the mixing of people that were there, who were enslaved in those times. So that was something that was very, very clear to me. You know, this is the first film that I've seen about enslaved people that had. It wasn't a lot of footage about this, but it was enough and powerful enough about family. About family, you saw a father who was fighting to get back to his wife and children, which defies the narrative that you have about black men and their family and their children. You know, so you have that in there. You have a woman who's willing to do whatever it takes to keep her family together and keep the hope of her husband coming back. This man was chased by what do you call them? The slave catchers. The predecessors of the police. Literally, that's what I was taught. Like the earliest formation of police forces were vigilantes that were hired to track down runaway slaves. So, which is interesting when you think about the mounted police, you know. And then, there's a scene in the film that literally evoked emotions because of policing. And just the sheer fight to survive. And it's funny how I still feel, many of us still feel this whole notion of being under extreme scrutiny, being watched, and having to behave a certain way to please the society's expectation of what black people should behave like or be like. You have to watch the film. I tend to choose my words very, very carefully because I feel like if I allow myself to let loose, I'm going to go into spaces that I cannot come back from. But I'll be lying if I said this film didn't leave me angry as well, because my question goes back to, when would there ever be a real conversation about what was sacrificed by generations and bodies over hundreds of years for the sake of building Europe, America, the Americas, and putting wealth into the hands of Europeans and power based on enslaving free people for the purpose of business. If I was still a principal, this is a film that I would literally screen at my school, and welcome students to come in and have a conversation, family, community members, and let's discuss this. Because one thing I would say is this: regardless of the feelings that I have, this is something that also empowers me. Allows me to see how resilient we are. There's a monologue in the film that I'm trying to find the words for, where Peter Will Smith's character talks about what he's been through and how still he's unbroken. Like, very, very powerful. And one of these days, I'm going to find it. I'm going to have to transcribe it. But it's something, if you watch this film, you will find. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you about this film. I don't do film reviews, even though I was a film major in college. But it's something I feel very strongly about. I'm sharing with you. So if you've seen it, let me know what you think. If you do see it, also let me know what you think, and let's have a conversation about it. All right. With that being said, have an amazing night. I'll talk to you later. Peace.